You and me together, we could be anything. So I'd like to continue with the idea, because I think this is so valuable, of building deep connections. I think it's like a superpower to be able to build really strong, deep connections and to do it fairly quickly. In a world of algorithms and hashtags and followers, I think it's so important to be able to build that true connection more now than ever. Maybe you'll relate. I found that one of the gifts of the crazy of the world right now is I just don't have time in my life for a lot of superficiality. I just want to cut through some of that and really get to the deep connection with people, the meaningful connection. I want to use my time wisely and make sure that it's meaningful. And so I think some of these skills will be able to help you with that as well. So I've got 5 tips. And the first one is to remember, and this is really tricky when you're working online so much, to remember to clear the space between you. A lot of us will talk across the table, especially if you're on a dinner date or with a friend. You'll be across the table. The table is actually a physical barrier between you. So that might be something you just want to keep in mind. Or quite often we talk across a desk. And when there's a physical barrier, it is harder to be able to connect with people. Some of the best people that connect are some of the talk show hosts. And if you think of Ellen, like she dances through the audience, she really connects with them. Tony Robbins is known for hopping off the stage, getting right in and interacting with people. That's because he wants to build trust. He wants to build a deep connection, because if he's going to get in there and shift your mindset, he's got to cut through the superficiality and really get in and connect with you. Oprah Winfrey is known as one of the world's master connectors. And she not only doesn't have a table between her and her guests, she quite often will sit on the same couch as her guests. So just something to keep in mind when you really want to connect with people. Try to do whatever you can to not have that physical barrier. On the other hand, there are times where people really do want to connect with you, and you want to be able to set a bit of that boundary. So if you want to keep that in mind, you can use the table. You can use that. That's why a first date's great across the table, because sometimes you don't want to let that person in quite so quickly. But what we also do, as you know, we talked about this as well with body language, but maybe you're not aware of the physical barrier you might be putting between you if you cross your legs when you're talking to somebody, or you cross your arms when you're talking to somebody. When you open up that physical space between people and you do want to connect, the second tip is physical touch. And I don't know about you, but being not able to be physically with people has been hard on my soul. I like physical connection. I like physical touch. Now, not everybody does. So being able to read people and build that trust before you go in for that physical touch is important. And of course, you always have to be very aware that you're doing it appropriately, which we're aware of. But I think we need to come back to some of the platonic physical touch. It's so powerful when you can touch someone on the shoulder, or touch someone on the knee, or touch somebody's hand, or their neck at times. Like you want a high five can be huge. Some it's going to be a hug. Like that physical connection anchors people. It builds trust on a subconscious level at a much deeper layer than you can ever establish when speaking. So something to think about when you are in those interactions where you can physically be with somebody. Add that idea of touch. Just a touch on the elbow can make a huge difference. When you're emphasizing things, we were talking about using hand gestures. Do remember that that physical touch can take the meaning of what you have to say to a much deeper level. So tip number 3 is eye contact. And eye contact and smiling are very connected, because sometimes when you smile with your eyes, and smiling tends to put, as long as you're not weird about it, smiling tends to put people at ease. Eye contact means I'm really fully present. People want to feel valued. People want to feel understood. So using eye contact and nodding your head because you're truly listening or you're wanting to truly understand them. If you furrow your brow, you'll be able to let them know, I'm listening, I'm with you, I hear you, I see you. And using the eyebrows again, but really connecting, and not in a superficial way where it's just a quick connection, not a prolonged way where it's really weird, but I'm truly fully present with you. So tip number 3 would be smile, put people at ease, and maintain that eye contact. Number 4 is listen. Like, really listen. The whole idea of listening, I think, is a lost art for many people. And if we could model that for people, I think more and more people would be more fully present. This is a crazy device, and many of us have an addiction to this, and we have to become aware of that. When you are fully present with somebody, put the phone away, turn it down, put it like out of your physical proximity, and just be with somebody and truly listen. The other part of listening is not waiting for a gap for you to put your 2 cents in. Truly listening is being present, listening, understanding. And one of the best things you can do, one of the biggest gifts you can do for somebody, is recap what they've just said. So not only did you hear it, I understood it, I let it transform me a little bit. And if I understand you correctly, this is what you said. That is really, really powerful for people. So really listen, recap, and summarize so they feel understood. And the last one is be vulnerable. To have deep connection, you can't be closed off. To have a deep connection, you have to share some of yourself so they realize that this is a safe space. If you're not vulnerable, they're not going to open up. And you want to show some commonality. You don't have to be going through the same thing, but when you can share with somebody that you have experienced something similar, that's when people want to connect. People want to be with those that are like themselves or like people that they want to be like. So being vulnerable allows them to the safe space to open up as well. And when you want to connect with somebody, get to, again, past the small talk, past the banter, get into asking good questions, get really deeply curious about people. Now, I'm not saying do this like with everyone, because you can't. But when it's your intention to deeply connect and show that you care and help people know that this is a safe space to be able to open up, that's when you've got to open up yourself as well. So now that I've said all of that about deep connections, and I love deep connections, there's nothing better than really truly being with another human being and knowing that you're different because you had an interaction with them. All right. But at the same time, sometimes we want to have deep connections with everybody. There's only 24 hours in a day, and you're not meant to have deep connections with everybody. And I love the phrase that some people come into your life for a reason, some people come into your life for a season, and some people come into your life for a lifetime. Some of us who really love and care and love to be with people want to make a reason a season, or we want to make a season a lifetime. And that's manipulation. If you can surrender and trust, surrender to the perfect unfolding, be fully present in the moment, look for the gifts of every interaction. But when it no longer serves you, don't manipulate. Don't morph into something you're not supposed to be. If your authenticity is lost, then you have to reassess that boundary with that person. So I'm going to teach you one of the most profound exercises when it comes to how to set boundaries. And I had no idea that I was trying to make people that were just simply acquaintances much deeper connections in my life. So I've got this circle of influence is what I'm going to call it. And you might want to jot this down, or you can go back to the recording, because if you have trouble setting boundaries, if you have things that bother you and you can't seem to let them go, that has been me, but I've gotten so much better when I use this tool. Okay, so we're going to start with the inner. There's 5 circles. The inner circle is self. You and your faith. You are the only one in that inner circle. And a lot of people want to bring people into that most important inner circle. You've been gifted with your life. It's your job to look after you first, and then you give from that abundance. Okay, so you're the inner circle. You're number one. All right. The second circle are your number twos. And this is the people in your life. These are the people that you have unconditional love for. You would do absolutely anything. I mean, anything for these people. So there's probably not a lot of people in that two. But you got to decide who's in my two. And I would strongly recommend like you write these things down so that it's crystal clear for you. Now, there will be times where people will move between circles. And the more you get in touch with this tool, the more you realize that there's different levels within each of these spheres of influence, these circles of influence. So number three is the tricky one for people to understand. Number three is where you have a lot in common. You have very similar values. Number threes would be people that if I were to call them up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I asked something so crazy out of the blue, like I need $500 and I really need you to come and pick up one of my children. And I know it's inconvenient. I need you to find a way to get in the car and come and pick up one of my kids. And is there any way that you can find $500 for me? I just picked that arbitrarily. I'm just talking about something that would be extraordinarily inconvenient for somebody, but they would do it. They would figure it out. They would problem solve no matter what, because they know A, I would never ask if I didn't need it. And B, I would never take advantage of that situation. Those are your threes. Now, your fours are people you have things in common with, people you enjoy spending time with sometimes. But if it's not convenient or there are other priorities, or sometimes you have differing of opinions, and that's okay. That was what makes the world go around. And you can have some fun and you can have some times where you're just going to agree to have a differing opinion, and that's okay. But you don't have everything in common, and you certainly may have differing values at times. And those are your fours. And a lot of people on social media, and I'm not talking necessarily this group, because I think we've done a lot to establish connection, even through a screen, even though we don't know each other. But a lot of our social media people that we connect with, we want to make them a three. We want them to get us. We want them to unconditionally support us in things, but they're actually a four. But if you try to pull a four into a three circle, then it can be very difficult. That you end up having expectations for them. They can disappoint you. All right. And then there's circle five. And a lot of people don't think about this circle. Circle five is we got skin in common. We're in the same human existence at the same time, but what you do really doesn't have an impact on my life. And when somebody leaves a strange comment or has an opinion about something that you're doing and you really don't know them, you don't know their value system, but you're trying to make them and their opinion a three in your life, that can be so hard. Now, let's talk about roles and expectations. And I'm going to be vulnerable. There are times where I want to pull family or people that it's like I'm supposed to have you a two or a three in my life, but you're a four. We really don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. But because of your physical proximity, or there's a connection in some way, I want to make a four a two. And when I make a four a two, that's when it gets really uncomfortable. That's when feelings get hurt. That's when I give my power away. That's when I morph into something I'm not, because I'm trying to pull somebody in. So when you know where the one is, when you know your twos, it makes it really easy to make choices, and it makes it really easy to set boundaries. And when you know where your threes are, wow, you can really value that. And when you know where your fours are, you can let things go. You can just allow them to be them and you to be you. I'll be the best me, you be the best you. And if it works out, brilliant. And if it doesn't, I'm not going to let it bother me. And if you've got fives, let those fives just be them, but they really have no influence on your life. You cannot be everything to everybody. I know this was a profound lesson for my life. I hope it helps you, but I do hope that you look for those moments to have those deep connections, because every single interaction can be a gift.